Okay, people. So I am joined by the writer and director of Heightened, Sara Friedman.
Hello.
Sarah, thank you so much for passing through. Really appreciate that.
Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Like when I saw the title of this film, I wondered what it could be. And then you're watching it and you'd be like, oh, heightened makes so much sense, right? Is it like heightened anxiety, heightened emotions? I'm assuming. I might be wrong there.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And we have Dusty is afraid of heights, so it
Oh
like
yes. Yeah.
multiple levels.
Yeah.
And I hope it does.
Oh no, it's I really enjoyed this film.
Oh, thank
It was great. But I then saw it's based on a 2016 short, or is it 2015
you. Yeah,
short?
2015 or 16. Yeah, that short film. So I started out as an actor and then studied some directing for theater in college. And eventually, when I was out of college and I was working, I was like, maybe I want to try out film directing. So I wrote that short, and it was the very first film that I ever directed. So I call that short my film school. But then the characters, they really stuck with me for a long time. And I'd written a different feature, but I kept thinking about the characters and the story. And I was like, I'm going to develop that short into a feature.
Okay. Now, in the short, like, what was the focus? Like the main focus, and what did you what did you flesh out? What did
Yeah.
you add?
So in the short, it was really about the two main characters, Nora and Dusty. The premise was the same, that except you don't see Nora's breakdown. It begins with this character, Nora, returning home to parents that she has a sort of strained relationship with, and confronting her mental health issues. Volunteering at the park, meeting Dusty, who is confronting his. So that sort of core of the film was the same. What really fleshed out and added were the side characters and the other smaller stories about the family dynamics and the entire character of Mitch, Dusty's bullying stepbrother,
Right.
was a
Yeah.
new addition. And we got to explore so much more also with the therapist, which we didn't get to do in the short.
Mm. Yeah, no, there was definitely some interesting dynamics happening in this one. Like, how did you kind of get into that headspace, right? To go, okay, I feel this character would be like this. I feel the therapist would talk like this. Because I think the therapist was interesting, right? Because there was that whole scene of I'm so disappointed. And it's not like in the actions, right? It's
Yes.
not going, you should not have done those things. I'm ashamed of it. It's
Right.
like you could have talked to me about it. And I thought
Yeah.
that was it very because you don't always see that. So I
A
thought
lot
that was really interesting.
Thank you. Yeah, a lot of times, therapists are portrayed in the media as sort of it's they just listen to you and maybe they're not challenging you that much.
Mm,
In my experience in real life, if you've built up a very and this is Nora's in a different situation because she's also in a court ordered program. So
yes.
she actually needs to show measured growth as part of this program. So she's very fortunate that she's getting this close with this therapist and building that trusting relationship. But at the end of the day, the therapist is the one who gets to decide 3 more weeks or no, you're done, or, it is an evaluation of sorts. So, and therapists, a lot of times now we have some fun media happening where therapists are the main characters, but usually
Mm,
therapists are side characters. They're more a conduit or a vessel for the main character to kind of dump what they're feeling. I
yeah.
wanted her to really show she was disappointed, have real agency and real feelings.
Yeah, no, I thought that was handled really well. It
Thank
was
you.
it was it was nice. And just the relationships I thought were good. You know, there's so many times you saw certain scenes happen, and you were just like, "Oh God, I felt that." Right? When you were sitting at the lobster shack, and you just hear a, "Oh, we're not friends," and you're just like, "Oh God,
Cringe. Yeah.
oh, that's so brutal."
Yeah. One thing that was fun about writing Nora is that it's like everything she says comes out a little wrong. Um,
Mm,
everything she's so in her own head that and so just embarrassed to be seen with this like worker guy and in this park ranger outfit that her instinct has nothing to do with him and his feelings. It's all okay, I gotta save face here. So that's a fun journey of her growth as well, to going from living fully in her bubble, me, to wow, the people around me are the main characters of their own lives.
yeah.
It's not all just me.
Yeah. Well, I think her and Dusty are very interesting because they have a similar issue on that front where they're saying things and it's just like, oh man, that wasn't the best thing to say. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You know? But you can also the other, I think, big thing, and it's really interesting, and there's a nuance to it. The things being said, you can tell they're not meant to be mean,
Yes.
right? And it's just the way that person says something or interprets it. It's not a malicious statement.
Absolutely. And then when they are fighting and Nora knows what to say to hurt him. She then can intentionally turn malicious,
Mm,
and it's sort of a bomb for him. And she there's a real difference between her saying things not really meaning to be mean and realizing how she comes across to, okay, now I'm going to weaponize my words.
mm, yeah. How long did it kind of take to find the voice of Nora and Dusty and Mitch and the parents?
Nora, it's interesting because Nora and I share a lot of the same issues. I like to say that Nora is me with no filter. um, I don't have the social anxiety component that Nora does. I
The
have
orange food?
I don't have orange food, although that was a little Easter egg for people in my personal life who are like, Sarah can't stand oranges. But I do have, OCD and anxiety, but I don't have the social component.
Yeah.
So it was easy for me to tap into Nora because I just sort of, um, opened. I thought, what if my life had gone this way, where maybe I did fortunately have very supportive parents with mental health issues, very open communication. So with her, it was sort of, what could I have been like if I was always pressing things down? Um,
Mm.
it was easy, very easy for me to find. Dusty, uh, I had such a clear idea. So the same actor played him in the short, Dave Douglas.
Yeah, yeah, I thought that was nice. I like that because, when you see that, you're like, "Okay, she must be a nice person."
Yeah.
Right? If this person
Yeah.
wanted to work with her again, like, she must be nice.
Well, the real secret is that he and I went to high school together, so we've known each other
Oh,
for a long
you had
time.
dirt on him. You
He
made
couldn't
him do it.
exactly, he couldn't back out if he wanted to, but he did so much to make that character his own way back in the short. We were both sort of he's a wonderful actor, but he at the time was doing mostly theater. So the short was such an experiment for both of us. And you watch the short and you watch the feature, and Dusty is the same exact character. He kept finding new and more fun places to take it during the feature, but he laid such a groundwork all those years ago. So I have to credit him for a lot of that. And this time, Mitch was a really interesting one to sort of work in. I know a lot of Mitches. I know a lot of people who are still a little bit bitter about what did or didn't happen when they were in high school. But I also wanted him to, feel real and have, even though he's a larger than life character, I wanted him to, have his own problems, just like everybody else. So that one, he took a minute to sort of figure out how not to make him just like a cartoony villain, but is there something motivating him? Is there something, some old regret? Um, and then, you know, the parents, we started with sort of a classic archetype of a waspy parent, which is a very New England thing. And Xander and Sarah, Xander Berkeley and Sarah Clark just took it and made it their own in such a beautiful way.
Yeah, and I think over the course of the film, we see more from them, and especially, you know, Xander's character, like, which I thought was nice because you see them first and you think, oh, they're these type of parents,
Mhm.
but there's more layers to it, which I
Yeah.
thought was really interesting. And I thought it was a nice thing because, you know, I think a lot of times we see these archetypes and it's just one thing, right? And it's just black or white.
Yeah.
And so it's always nice when you get that nuance.
Yeah, and it was important to me to show that it's never too late for growth. It's never too late to try and mend a relationship or try and, you know, just do better. Just because a family dynamic or relationship dynamic has been the same for 25 years doesn't mean it needs to keep being that way. And
Mm.
I especially, the mother, Susan, you know, she is. So if I said, if Nora is me, if I never got help, if I was always pushing everything down, Susan is Nora if she never got help and was always pushing everything down.
Mm.
Susan is what Nora would turn into.
Yeah.
So it really to find a way to not just have them be that stereotype of those kinds of parents and say what really what got them there.
Yeah. No, I think that really does come across. So it's which just added to the charm of the thing, I kind of figured, you know.
Yeah.
So that yeah, that was nice. That was nice. Like, did you have a tone in mind when you were writing, or does that come, you know, in the kind of editing process?
The tone was very specific in the writing process for me because, you know, I wrote it a very specific way, and I directed it with that tone in mind. And then in the edit, it's all about making sure we are sort of adhering to that tone. And this film has a very specific tone. It's very it's the humor is off a little bit, but there's also dramatic moments and just making sure that we really in the edit, and my editor Nick Wenger was really wonderful. He understood the tone immediately from reading the script. So and just watching footage. So then that was sort of, you know, that last making sure that everything matched. Um,
Mm.
but it definitely came very early in the process.
Okay. Okay. Now, what's the kind of difference? This being your, you know, feature directorial debut.
Yes.
So, what's the difference for you from doing the shorts, you know, the TV work and other stuff to doing this?
Yeah, so I've directed several micro budget short films, and um this was my first project that had, you know, we'll say a real, still a low budget, but a real budget and a full crew. I've worked on several films in different, you know, bigger films in different roles. I've done a lot of production and acting, and but this was helming. This was so different from shorts, and I was so fortunate to be surrounded by such talented people that I could really rely on. One thing I think directors really need to remember is that they don't know everything. You've hired people who are experts in their field. I don't need to know everything about camera when I have such an amazing cinematographer that I can defer to, that I can say, "What do you think?" So I was really fortunate to surround myself with those people who I really trusted, who I could go to and say, "You know, actually, right now, with this lighting thing I am in over my head, what do you think? And just let them do their jobs. So that was a huge lesson. I tend as a person to try to take on too much. So to really sit back and delegate and remember you've hired these people for a very specific reason and to trust them. So I found the experience really, really wonderful and hope I get to do it again very soon. If someone wants to give me a movie to direct, I'm down.
Oh, well, I kind of feel that anyone that sees this is a great proof of concept, right? Yeah, I think you can go, okay, yeah, she could definitely handle, you know, this other kind of stuff. So I
Thank
think
you.
you've really set yourself up well there. You know, kind of, it reminded me in some ways of films like Dan in Real Life or
Mhm.
Ride the Eagle, you know, A Little Garden State, just
Yeah.
those kind of tonal kind of films, you
Yeah.
know?
A huge tonal reference for me was Silver Linings Playbook.
Oh,
I
yes.
remember seeing that movie when it came out and going, "This is the first time I feel really represented in how my actual day-to-day struggles with mental illness manifest." Like, sometimes things are funny,
Mm,
sometimes things are humorous, sometimes the way my brain works may be at a disadvantage in one situation, but allows me to connect really beautifully to somebody in a different way, and so I came out of that movie, you know, just like I had the best time at that movie when it came out. I think I was in high school even or early college. And so that always stuck with me as a tonal reference. I love how they navigated between the comedy, the really difficult moments, the relationship, the connection, and then their other what was their fun thing was a dance competition.
yes.
Um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
for us, it's sort of this state park. It's like you have this whole other thing kind of thrust in the mix to make it unique, and so that was a huge tonal reference for me. And yeah, it was very fun coming up with sort of all of our references paying homage to different movies that I love, and that was one of them for sure.
Yeah, no, I did love that film. I feel that was yeah, very well handled.
Yeah,
And I think it's interesting because not all the time, like you usually see like mental health kind of shown in a certain way.
yeah,
And as you said, it's different every day, right?
exactly.
It can change hour to hour, right?
Mhm.
It's not just this one thing. And
Yes.
so it always is frustrating when you see certain people depicted or certain you know conditions depicted and it's just, oh, this person has autism, so obviously they're
Right.
this, and you're just like, not, no.
And OCD is a major one, that I think is misrepresented frequently in the media. I actually the show Monk is a great show, but I think that a lot of people associate OCD with that kind of like, it's hand washing all the time, it's
Yeah,
cleanliness.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Whereas really it's just sort of any sort of ritual that follows an obsession. It's more about the thought pattern
Mm,
than it is what the thought is. For many people, that manifests in cleanliness. I need to wash my hands. That's their ritual, but it's that's not what OCD actually is. And so sometimes it's the hyperfixation on the sounds and the certain senses. So I had even though we don't I wish I could make this movie like 10 hours long because it would all just be one long therapy scene. But because I couldn't do that, I hope that the little snippets people kind of go, oh, I hadn't maybe even thought of that in that light. And I think we're doing a lot better as an industry as a whole right now, bringing mental illness into the conversation and making it less homogenous, and kind of showing the nuances. But I'm happy to hopefully be a part of that conversation.
mm. No, it was I think the portrayal was definitely handled very well, you know. So yeah, no, that was it was yeah, nice. It was nice to see all of intimacy, and she lists all these different things, and it's just like, okay, we can stop there. but it's
I
just
love
like
that scene,
she's just like, "Oh, this,
yeah,
this, this."
yeah. And, one thing that was also, like you said earlier, the how mental illness can change from day to day. It also, changes from person to person. One thing
Mm,
that was very important to me is both Dusty and Nora suffer from panic attacks, but their panic attacks manifest in completely different ways. So my cinematographer and composer and editor and I worked through the different like effects that each of their panic attacks take. Nora's are hyper focus on small things, lots of close-ups, like, real extreme close-ups and rapid cutting. Dusty's are the world around him gets out of focus and
yeah.
blurry. So even though they're the same issue, they're experiencing them completely differently because we all experience everything completely differently.
And that was something that really works well,
Thank
right?
you.
Because it's just that, you know, as you said, the focus on the sound,
Yeah.
right? When especially at the beginning, when you just hear all of those noises, and you get the close-ups of those things, and then when she gets up, it feels like she's walking in slow motion
Yeah.
or walking in, like, quicksand,
She's
and
almost having, like,
everything.
an out of body
Yeah.
experience, yeah.
Yes, because everything around her is kind of not there now. And I thought that was really, I feel it displayed the situation really well, and you know what's happening when
Yeah.
you see it. And as you said, with Dusty, it's a different thing, but again, it just really shows those situations so well. And like, yeah, how long did it take to work out, those visual effects for the characters?
Yeah, that was sort of, it was a challenge, but a fun one. I think the good thing is that, so my cinematographer, her name is Fadem-Johnston. She's fabulous. She and I really worked out early on. We did a lot of preparation, a lot of shot listing, and she and I worked out those two different panic attack effects early on to make sure that anytime we were in those scenes, we were fully covered with the right equipment, that the first AC was doing the right focus pulling for one type of panic attack versus the other. So it was very planned out in advance, which of course made everything in the edit much easier. And then what my editor Nick and I really focused on was the pacing of their panic attacks because we're working on the cuts um,
Mm.
and building. Nora's is a little more frenetic and quick, and Dusty's is sort of ooh. So I'm sure everyone who just is going to listen to that and not see it. Just like, what is she doing? And then my composer Nick Senna, who is absolutely fabulous, he had a blast too coming up with. We decided that Nora's panic attacks are almost like a horror film score, very instrumental and lots of shrill strings. And so that kind of stuff, the composing came more in post, which was really fun.
Ah, okay. No, it's really interesting because I think you kind of figured that, yeah, all this thought has to go into it, but it's that finer detail
Yeah.
that you only understand through a conversation like this, and it's just so much work.
Yeah, yes, it is. It's funny, my family and friends who are, because we shot in Maine, which is where I grew up, and, some family would come to set or whatever, and they'd go, "Oh, this is like a lot of work, isn't it?" Yes, making films is actually really tough. There's a lot of moving parts.
I know. I think sometimes there's a thought that, you know, oh, it probably took a few months,
Yeah.
right? Oh, this film. As I remember, there's been those occasions when a couple of films on the same subject have come out and be like, oh, like surely they'd have known. They should have stopped. And it's just like it doesn't work like
Yeah, one was probably shot 4 years ago.
that.
I actually was, telling a very funny story yesterday. My father, passed away a month ago, very unfortunately, and he was so proud of me and this film and everything. But I was showing him some rough footage, and he was like, "So what about that? That hairstyle? Maybe you should change that for." And I said, "Dad, the whole movie was shot 6 months ago. I'm not going in and changing a hairstyle." But even just that basic disconnect of, "This is working really well. What if you did that? It's been
Yeah.
filmed. It was filmed ages ago. You were there."
But you got to show him the film?
Yes, yes, he saw the film. He saw the
Oh,
film, and all
tremendous.
through all sorts of he saw roughs, he saw the final. So,
Oh,
yeah,
that's great.
I was
I'm
very
glad you were
fortunate
able to do that.
to have incredibly, incredibly supportive parents of this wacky career in the arts. So,
Hey, well, it's paying off.
yeah.
It's definitely paying off.
Actually, my father was a very successful lawyer, and his first bar exam, he left because he had a panic attack. That
Ah,
that plot point came from his past.
right.
Yeah,
Okay.
yep.
Interesting.
Always mining other people's stories.
Well, so much happens around us, right? That can be inspiration or let you get an insight into how someone will think or act
Yep.
in a certain situation. So, yeah, it makes sense to do
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
No, definitely. How was the casting process? There's obviously, Dave, you had him on lock, but everyone else, like, how did you come with those people? And was there, like, with the therapist, was the therapist always a woman, or
Mhm.
were some of these roles just, I'm looking for someone that can convey this, and the sex, the race, that doesn't
Yeah,
really come into
yeah.
it?
Yeah, so, the actually, I'll start with the therapist. In the script, the therapist was originally a man, didn't really matter. I wrote him as a man. Jim, the group therapist, was in the short film, and he's an actor in Maine who is so funny that, I knew I wanted to keep him, and that's in the short film, the group therapist is also her individual therapist. In the feature, I thought, "Okay, I can branch out and create 2 separate characters."
Mm,
So, I had it written as a man, I envisioned him a specific way, um, a specific vibe, and then, my incredible acting mentor, who's a wonderful director, Deborah Kampmeyer, in New York, I did a workshop with her, and I met this woman, Dipti, and I was like, we didn't even act all week. It was that one was a writing and clowning workshop. So I saw her write and I saw her clown, but I just knew that she had to be a phenomenal actor. So when we were in the casting process, I thought she could really take the therapist in a whole new direction. And I asked her to put herself on tape, and I was like, "Yep, that's it." So, she's someone who I saw clown and just knew she could do this therapist. So that was really fun. Jillian Peterson, also, the
yeah.
frenemy. She is also a dear friend of mine from that class. We've been acting in class together for years and years and years. I had never seen her do comedy. She is an incredible dramatic actress, Shakespeare, everything, but I just knew she could do it. So those were friends from acting class. Um,
Ah.
and then the larger, the bigger roles, Xander and Sarah are a married couple in real life. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, they thought it might be fun to do this together. They have such incredible careers. Xander, I think if you go to his IMDb, he's been in 250 things,
Whoa.
everything you see. And Sarah as well, just so incredible. And I am so fortunate that they decided to randomly move to Maine a few years ago. So I thought, oh my God, maybe they'll want to do this. And we had great conversations about the script and the characters, and they were both in. And I was so fortunate and blown away by that. And then Mitch, I used to work in TV at IFC TV. I was a network and development coordinator. And we had this sketch show on the air called The Birthday Boys that was executive produced by Bob Odenkirk. He was sort of their mentor. And I think they came to New York for upfronts or something, and we all went out to karaoke. And I was like, this Mitch guy's great. He's so fun. And I ended up writing the role. I ended up writing the role for him, not actually thinking he would take it, but he did. So yeah, everything sort of worked out in a beautiful way.
Oh, fantastic. Oh,
Yeah.
that's great.
Especially
And
for a smaller film in Maine. Mitch is from outside of Boston. He's from Quincy. So I was like, if you go visit your family, you could then hop over to Maine and do this movie. He's like, all right. Yeah.
so manipulative, Sarah.
Yes, I know, right? I'm like, don't you want to see your mom? And then do the 1.5-hour drive north. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, what do you when you cast these actors for these roles, how do you then work with them? Like, do you sit down, have a conversation, be like, look, the character is this is, or do you leave it up to the script? Do you give them soundtracks to be like, this music will help you get into the frame of mind? Do you give them film references? What is your kind of process on that front?
So because this was a lower budget film running on a very tight schedule, we did not have any form of rehearsal time before we started shooting. One day I hope to do a movie where I get my actors for a couple weeks. And I was so lucky that all of these actors are such pros. I did not have to really do anything. We had some phone calls. Dave and I did a little bit together because, again, we're friends and we could just hang out and talk through the script. And
Yeah.
but especially with the actors who either didn't live close to me or who I didn't have that prior relationship with, it was mostly we'd have some phone calls about how they saw the character, how I saw the character, and then a lot of beautiful stuff happened on set, a lot of collaboration. Xander and Sara are such recognizable, amazing actors, and were very respectful to me about coming up to me and saying, I wonder, would it be okay if I tried it like this, or could I add this line? They would ask, and it would be a conversation, and I would absolutely always say, yes, I want to hear what you have to bring, how you're feeling this character. And then we could try it a different way. But it's a very open conversation with me. As an actor myself, I think that actors can bring things to the script that the writer never even imagined. So I always want to hear.
Yeah. Now, because I was wondering that actually, because you've had so many different roles,
Yeah.
right? You acting, producing, directing, writing, script management. Like, do you think having all of that has given you some unique tools to be able to have this vision for directing?
I do. I started as an actor, and then I started studying directing as well in college, but for theater. So I've been an actor and a director longer than anything else, but I sort of fell into a lot of production, coordinating, managing, producing, and learned that businessy, logistical side. And I think that especially on a project like this, where we had to work quickly and efficiently, that helped me because I have an understanding of budgets. I have an understanding of timing, of how we really need to move to get everything. And I hope my amazing producer, John Herman, would say that I was a help and not a hindrance, but you never know. Uh, but, so I do think that having various roles helped me a lot on this film. What it can do negatively is make me feel like I should be doing everything myself. I should be doing more and more and more. And that was, like I said earlier, something that I really had to learn, and how to trust everybody around me to do their jobs, which they did so brilliantly. But yeah, I think for this one especially, again, with how quick we had to move and how resourceful we had to be, I wasn't walking up to my producer saying, I think for this shot we should get a crane. That just that wasn't this movie, and I understood that.
And how do you build that kind of confidence and level of trust with people that you don't necessarily know as well as people like Dave?
Yeah. So for me, especially with crew, it's preparation, preparation, preparation. I am a huge believer in, shot listing everything well before you start shooting, in having production meetings, having constant conversations with every department head. So everyone's on the same page and you can see well in advance, you can pick out what's going to be a problem, what scenes are going to be the trickiest. And when you watch people work in prep and you're all on the same page, then by the time you start shooting, you've already built that trust.
Okay. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense.
And I'm not and then of course, the more, in my opinion, the more structure you have actually allows for more creativity. When we have this great plan, if a strike of inspiration hits in the moment and you want to deviate from the plan, that's okay, because you have the plan to fall back on.
Mm, yes, for real, for real. Like, going into this process, were there things that you thought, oh, this is going to be so challenging, or this might be an issue? And then once you finished, were those things what you thought they were, or did other stuff come up, or was it just like, boom, perfect all the way through?
If only. Um, I really wanted to shoot this in Maine, on the ocean, on the beach. There's a lot of challenges that go with that. Most of the scenes that ended up being harder in the edit, I knew right on the day, oh boy. And it was usually some sort of something out of our power. We're doing a nighttime beach scene and our generator breaks. Uh,
Oh.
those kinds of things. And we're like, oh, we're on a beach in Maine. I don't know how we're going to get a replacement generator right now. Those kinds of things. A massive storm rolled in and we all had to take cover and the ocean was swelling, and that scene is a little trickier to edit. Um,
Mm,
so the good thing about that, though, is that on the day we were able to go, okay, do we need to go back and cover our asses with anything because that crazy thing happened? But there were, in the edit, there were pretty much no surprises. There were definitely major challenges, but they were like, on the day we were like, oh yeah, no, this is going to be a tough one.
okay. Okay. Cool. Like, what for you is the most enjoyable element so far about this, the whole process? Is it directing? Is it the writing? Like, what, like acting? Like, what is it?
Yeah, for me on this one, the directing, as my directorial debut as a feature, it was so important and such a momentous feeling for me. So, um, the acting on this one comes, I don't want to say easier, but because Nora is in some regards an extension of myself, I was worrying about that a little less. And the writing happened so much earlier than the act. So the directing really was really important and special to me. And then especially with my short films, I had never gone through such a robust post experience. With micro budget stuff, it's usually you have an editor who can also color, who can also help with some sound stuff. You license music, no composer. So there were certain
Mm.
things that I had not done before that were so fun. I had the best time working with the composer. That was like one of my favorite parts of the whole film. So yeah, just going through that actual full robust post experience was really cool.
Oh, nice. Like, how do you work with a composer? What was it fit like? Oh man. Yeah, because it's just like, right, working with a composer, I imagine, you know, that's an interesting thing, and I guess so many people would have different approaches. So
Yeah.
do you go into that with just, well, this is my fault, or did you try and, read or listen to what another, director has talked about, or other composers talked about the challenges and that, so you can be like, oh, okay, so I'll do it in this way, or like, yeah,
Yeah.
how was that for you?
It was really, it was, so I didn't really know what to expect, having never worked with a composer before. I do have a music background. I'm a singer. So,
Okay.
and
But
I,
how many hats do you wear, Sarah? God
uh,
damn
I,
it. You're
I
making me feel so inferior. I'm just like,
no,
I need to
no.
leave this now because God damn it.
I started out in my acting, I started out in musical theater. So I just luckily, even though I don't do it as much anymore, um, I know a bit of music theory. I can read music. I can all, that. I can't play any instruments, don't worry. But so this composer, Nick, he read the script and watched I think the rough, and immediately understood the tone, so immediately understood the tone. And he basically would just, it was unbelievable working with him. I felt so inferior because he'd be like, we'd be sitting there watching the movie. I'd go, for this, the feeling is like romance could happen, but also it's quirky and fun and we're outdoors. And he'd go, so maybe like, and then all of a sudden do something on his piano and it would be like amazing. It blew my mind every time. And he's like, then we could add a little, and he picks up his guitar and he's like, and I'm like, yeah, exactly. That's insane. Like, record it. So we had so much fun trying to make it sound a little unique. So he used a lot of different instruments that you don't typically hear. Like there was, I don't remember the exact term, but there was like an Indian type of wind instrument. There was like a South American string instrument. Like we tried to also emulate certain nature sounds. He says this is the first project someone's ever sent him animal noises as a reference. I was sending him sounds of loon calls, which you hear a lot in Maine. The loons on the lakes make these noises. And so that Indian flute he found sounded the closest to a loon. So we traded a lot of fun kind of ideas back and forth. And he really led the way on just kind of, like I said, he would just pop a melody out of thin air and say, how's that? And I would go, God, incredible. Uh, so it couldn't have been an easier and more fun process, frankly.
And how long did that take?
A few months. I think we maybe every couple weeks we'd get together for an in-person session. He'd work on music, he'd send it to me, I'd make notes, and then we'd go sit and watch it in his studio. Having the visuals on the screen with the music was really important. And then just fine tuning. Then he, got his talented group of musicians together and they recorded. And then we did some sort of final tweaks once everything was fully recorded.
Okay. And how much does, like, when you're working on a score like that, like, how much did it then change the editing process of the film?
So the film was pretty much like very close to locked, if I remember correctly. Um, but what it really did was just enhance everything that we'd already done. It to me brought things to like a whole new level. Um, but it was, like I said, and I'm so fortunate with this, with these various members of the crew, they understood the tone and the feeling just from reading the script so well that it
Mm,
wasn't like, oh, our composer's done this and I think now we should change this. It was like everyone was just on the same page.
okay. No, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think it comes off as, this really polished and just well done piece, but you'd never think it's a feature directorial debut. I
Thank
think
you.
that's the thing with this. It, like, yeah, I think it sits with those other films.
Thank you. That really means a lot. That was the goal this whole time. I just want people to go in and watch the movie and enjoy it, and not, pick out little hiccups and bumps and go, oh, but she's new.
No, no, no. I don't think. Yeah, I think you would just assume that you've made a ton of films, written a ton of films.
Well, and that is really the benefit of surrounding yourself with such incredible cast and crew. I mean, I could fall back on so many amazingly talented people. So it really, it's especially now in the state of the industry, as we're, writers are striking and actors might go on strike, and we're not valuing the what everybody brings to the table. It really is such a collaborative medium, and you got to recognize that.
Well, I think it is just a great thing to hear someone acknowledge the work of others, right? There's so often and especially in the past, and I had this conversation recently. I forget who with, but it's like where actors would go, "Oh yeah, that was me hanging from the helicopter," and
Right.
they wouldn't acknowledge the stunt people.
Yeah.
And it's just insane because you're not gonna go, "Oh, they didn't do their own stunts. I don't like this anymore." No, you'll just be like,
Actors who
all of it just
yeah,
comes together and it's great.
There's the only actor who's hanging from a helicopter is Tom Cruise.
Yeah,
Everybody else, it's a stunt double.
I know, right?
Yeah,
And even it's funny because even Jackie Chan, right? And he does a lot of stunts,
yeah,
but he doesn't do all the stunts.
yeah, it's physically not, production companies won't let you, insurance
Oh.
companies won't let you.
Yeah, I think Tom Cruise is. I think I forget on what Mission Impossible, but I remember hearing that it was crazy trying to get that insured, and I'm
Yeah,
sure it didn't help when I think is it on this new one,
I
and he
think so.
jumps across the roof and he breaks his ankle, but finishes the scene.
Of course,
Finishes the scene, but he actually broke his ankle
of
on
course
the
he does.
landing,
I'm
which is
like, "Guys, there's a spider on my leg. Cut, cut." We have to stop. Tom Cruise breaks his ankle and is, still running. Yeah,
No, it's crazy.
yeah.
But yeah, no, it's nice to see people acknowledge others and understand that they're only as great as they are with the help and support of others.
Absolutely.
And I just think it also then makes people want to work with you because it shows the character of someone who can do that.
Well, and going into this, while it was my feature debut, I've worked on many feature films. I've been the director's assistant on several feature films, so I've had an opportunity over the last several years to watch and learn. And the directors who foster, um, a creative, collaborative environment are the ones you want to keep working for. And as my producer, John Herman, who I've worked with many, many, many times, he always says when people get really stressed on a film set, and it can be very, very stressful, and when people get really stressed, he goes, "It's okay. We're not doing brain surgery. We're making make believe. Everyone can take a breath. We're making make believe. It's not life or death. we're gonna get it done." And
Mm,
so that's the vibe. I'm not going to pretend I didn't get crazy stressed every day, but that's the vibe that we want to go for. We're here to make something beautiful, tell a story, have a good time.
awesome. Well, yeah, you did, honestly, you did a tremendous job. I
Yeah.
thoroughly enjoyed watching this film. So, hey, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
So, do you think that you'll go to one of those other scripts that you were pondering
The
next?
ones that I wrote before this are definitely on hiatus, but I have some other things I'm doing. I'm writing a script right now for someone else to direct, actually. So that's
Uh,
where my focus is right now, and I definitely have ideas percolating for my next one. I would also love to direct a feature that I didn't write. That would be, a new thing for me. So I would also, I would really love to find a way to get into TV. I love TV. That's a dream of mine.
Okay. Would you think about doing like a web series? There's yeah, I've spoken to a couple of people playing at the festival actually. Like Simon Kincaid and Emily Zisco have got Play
Okay.
It By Ear, and then Frank and Laura Leon have got something called Remixed.
Cool. Yeah, I've done a web series. It was not really a traditional web series. Basically, I made this little, it was sort of anthology, a little collection of shorts, very, very micro budget that it was called Scenes from a Not So Future Dystopia. And it was my little political satire, sort of every episode dealt with a different potential future scenario. There's the first one was about women's health care. There's the wage gap. It's my little sort of micro budget feminist anthem. And all of those I consider my film school too. Those were all sort of the first things that I was doing. And it was really fun to do, definitely. But I'm so interested in learning more about how television works. The direction of directing TV is so different from directing film, coming in and taking over someone else's project and maintaining the continuity of the tone of the series while you're just popping in for an episode. That seems like such a cool challenge to me.
Yeah, no, definitely, definitely. Any genre that you'd love to work in, or any that you wouldn't want to work in?
I'll do anything, but I'm a huge I'll be blunt. I'm a huge nerd, massive sci-fi and fantasy fan. So,
Nice, nice.
yeah, it's my dream to join the Star Trek universe one day. Big Trekkie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which one would you want to jump into?
Oh, right now, probably Strange New Worlds is
Okay.
so fun. But I love them all. But yeah, I'm a huge fantasy person. I mean, I'm loving House of the Dragon. I'm just loving all these shows that are really going for it. The Damon Lindelof just did Mrs. Davis, which was so unique. I enjoy right now how people are really kind of swinging for the fences on TV, and
Yeah, there's some good stuff. There's
yeah,
definitely some good stuff out
really
there.
good stuff
Like,
happening.
and how excited are you to know Stransky's bringing Babylon 5 back?
That's amazing. And
Oh man.
I was a huge BSG, Battlestar Galactica fan, and Ronald D. Moore has a new show coming out soon. His
I
show,
think there's 2 projects.
yeah, his
One
show
from Moore and one from somewhere else. I think it's the Mr. Robot guy.
Oh wow, yeah. Yeah, there's no lack of great sci-fi happening right now. So
Yeah.
I want to jump on that train. And my favorite TV show right now is For All Mankind, Ronald D. Moore's Apple TV alternate universe where the Soviets won the space race,
Ah.
alternate history. It's an incredible show, and that's like a dream. That's like a dream show for me to ever be on. So Ronald D. Moore, if you're listening, I'm
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
ready.
Well, anyone, I think you need to book this lady ASAP because her calendar is gonna get crazy
Oh
busy.
my goodness,
So
dream.
make sure you do and get her now because you'll get her cheaper than you will if you wait a year. You
Yes,
know what I
yes.
mean?
You'll get me for almost anything at this point right now. It wants to work, so.
Oh, and right before we go, I should say so Heightened is having its world premiere, people. The world premiere. First time on the big screen at Dances with Films. It is happening Friday, the 23rd of June. So tomorrow at 7:15 in the evening.
Everybody, come out, have a good time. We're in an amazing, iconic, old, cool theater. It's gonna be a blast.
And will you be there? Will any cast be there for a
Yeah,
Q&A?
I will be there. Xander Berkeley, who plays my father, will be there.
With some
And
beers?
excuse me?
With some beers?
Yeah, yes, with some beers to drink on the kitchen floor. Uh, yes, Xander Berkeley will be there, and so much of our incredible crew will be there. Our producer, John Herman, executive producer, Matt Ratner, they both have amazing production companies that have done so much awesome indie film. So it's going to be a really good group of people.
Oh, tremendous. People, you do not want to miss that. So the ticket link will be on the website, people. All the socials are on the website. Sarah's website, all of that. So make sure you go cop a ticket, right? Follow her on social media so you can find out where else it might be showing and what other products she has in the pipeline. Yeah, as I say, get on this on the ground level, because hey, you want to be there when you be like, I remember before she blew up, before she made that Marvel flick, before, you know what I mean? She did that Battlestar Galactica reimagining, right? Get on now with Heightened, people. All right, hey, thank you for your time. This has been such a great joy.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you so much, Kevin. Really wonderful to chat with you.
Hey, no worries, man. Just enjoy your premiere tomorrow. I'm sure people are going to love this film. I really do. So yeah, enjoy it. And when your next project is ready to pop, hey, come back and let's have a conversation.
Awesome.
All right, outstanding. Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you so much.
All right, take care.
Bye.